This podcast is rated S for spoilers. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to the Half Past Podcast. This is episode 89, the movie review of Terminator Dark Fate. I'm Graham Ricks, and here with me is my friend and co-pilot, Ian Jones.
Ian with suspiciously messy hair, Jones. Good morning, Mr. Ricks.
Oh, man. Good morning, man.
Yeah.
It's been a little while since we've recorded, but how you doing?
I am doing much better, I'll say that, because just before...
Oh, gosh.
Just before
before you were talking about the little bit of endeavor that you had to go through here.
Yeah, well, I was in a lot of pain for most of the week.
Yep.
And the remedy of which was a root canal.
Ugh.
And I don't think I've ever been more excited to throw money at a dentist before. And the 2.5 hour procedure was like awful to go through.
Ugh.
Like they couldn't get me numb enough, and I was just like, this needs to get done. Get the nerve out of there.
I just cannot even fathom how it feels to go through a root canal, especially since a lot of the dental procedures, they don't knock you out. So, you're just, there. And I've had multiple surgeries, but they've always knocked me out. I've always been under general anesthesia.
Right.
So, for the thought of me just, sitting there as somebody's operating on me, just sounds like awful.
I mean, it's a long time. And what I don't understand is why they don't have TV screens embedded into the ceilings at dentist offices anyway.
That makes a lot of sense, right?
So, because of where this thing was, because it was on the upper and in the far back of my mouth, they had to tilt me way back.
Ugh.
So, at one point during the middle of this, the assistant brought me up to do x-rays so they could check on the progress.
Yeah.
Well, as soon as he leaned me up, I felt all the blood leaving my head and running down my body, and it was such a weird experience.
Oh,
and I feel like we're gonna be really freaking people out by talking about this, but I felt like saying to him, dude, you gotta bring people up a lot slower. The thing is, I couldn't say anything because of the amount of crap that they had in my mouth. I couldn't move. Right? I couldn't physically move my mouth.
Oh, jeez.
And this was a new assistant who was pissing off the dentist because he just wasn't ready with stuff right when the dentist needed him. So there was 2 hours of that back and forth while you're sitting there unable to talk. And I worried that the dentist was gonna just leave and not, because it was so late by the time we were done. And that facility stays open till 8 o'clock. But I was worried I wasn't gonna get a chance. I had all these questions and I couldn't ask any of them because of the amount of stuff that was in my mouth, keeping it open. So I'm typing out questions on my phone, and when the dentist finally comes back, I was just like, "Bam, read these questions and give me answers." So he just kind of laughed at me, and then he was like, "Oh, okay, so this, and this," and I'm like, "Great, right." I just gave him a thumbs up.
Nice.
It's just so funny when you do not have the ability to move your mouth. You can't ask anything, and they're telling you all this stuff, and you can't reply to it. So it's just you need some sort of notepad system or something, a little dry erase board, so you can and just write it out.
I mean, that would make total sense.
Write your question out. It's well, he really freaked me out because he's there was a complication. I won't get into what it was.
Oh, God. Why would you even bring it up? Wait a minute. Why would you even bring it up? I'd be like, well, wait a minute. Like, I'm not going to get into it.
Yeah.
What do you mean you're not going to? Why would you even
I'm sorry. I'm not going to get into it on the air. I'm not going to get into it on the air.
For a second there, I was like, what, the dentist say? He's like, well, there's a complication. I'm not going to get into it. What does that even mean?
Oh my god, that would be hilarious. That would be like something out of The Simpsons.
Right?
You know, like that doctor's, what was his name? The really bad doctor?
Dr. Nick.
Dr. Nick.
Hi, everybody.
Where he's just like, ready to put you under, and he's like, what the hell is that? And that's like the last thing you hear. Oh, goodness. So anyway.
Oh, my gosh.
It'll be, unfortunately, it'll be concluded after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So I won't be able to enjoy Thanksgiving. I'll go in on Friday and get that buttoned up. But it doesn't matter because I'm not cooking everything on Thanksgiving.
Oh, well, there you go.
So it can only be so good, right?
Oh, well,
I am doing the green bean casserole.
Green bean casserole, man. It's always delicious.
My wife's going to stab me in the eye for that little comment, but one of us had to go at one point.
Real life.
Well, I guess she's finally going to kill me.
Oh, man, that didn't last very long.
No, I thought it would be longer. And statistically, the odds were in my favor that it would have gone the other way around. But I guess I'm going to die over this little comment. All right. Yeah.
I love how we started this podcast and we've talked about your dental procedures. That's like, it's completely different from anything that we've ever sat here and talked about. The thing I wanted to mention, though, for sure, was that, like, I have been busting my butt, man, trying to get podcasts out because we were behind.
You have, yes.
So in the past, like, week, I got 3 of them done, and I was just like, bam, bam, bam,
awesome.
And I shot them all out there.
It's been awesome to listen to, by the way. I really enjoyed listening to you and Jackie. Now I wish I had seen the movie.
Yeah.
That particular movie, so that I could follow along. So I'd be interested to hear you guys do one for a movie that I have seen. I just couldn't convince anyone to go with me to see Abominable. So
it's a shame. It's a cute movie. It's a cute movie, you know?
You figure it's gotta be. I mean, it's DreamWorks. You know what they're up against.
Yep. Yep, it was a cute movie, so I don't know why people didn't want to go see it, but I mean, it is like a nice little film. It just is, you know. And it's so weird because I've been going back and forth with a couple of people on our YouTube channel talking about like Abominable and all these other things, and Dr. Sleep. So like we've been getting comments about it, so I've been back and forth. And one guy in particular had brought up that we need to do How to Train Your Dragon 3, which I have forgot that movie came out when we were on hiatus. So I was explaining to him how I thought the ratings of these should be. I thought they got progressively worse, but that's like splitting hairs because they're all so good. So
we didn't we have that conversation in one of the podcasts?
We did have that conversation in one of the podcasts. So that's why I thought that we had reviewed that movie, but we hadn't reviewed that movie. And I was just like, well, crap, man, we should probably go back and get that one done as like a makeup one of these days, because it'd have been interesting to talk about How to Train Your Dragon 3. But I just thought it was so weird because I know we've had a conversation about this in one of the podcasts. I have no idea which one it is. No clue which one it is. But it'd have to be one that was probably it had to have been earlier this year because it came out February of this year is when How to Train Your Dragon 3 came out. So my assumption is one of them had to come up maybe when we're talking about trilogies in general, because there's been a lot of movies that that's been happening that are like the third movie.
Yeah, I can't pinpoint it.
Yeah, but we definitely had a conversation. So I thought we had actually talked about did a review, but we didn't. So it's something I think we should make up one of these days. But
man, that almost
anyway,
that's weird.
That's right. It's really strange.
Feels like
I was right. I was 100% sure. I was like, well, no, we did this one, and I went back and looked at all of our stuff, and I'm like, oh yeah, that happened. We were on hiatus because we went from Infinity War right to Endgame. So it came out February this year. Endgame was like what, April or March or something like that this year.
I'm in disbelief over it.
Yeah, right. It's really strange, but. Other than that, man, we should probably take a break here and let's actually talk about Terminator Dark Fate.
All right, let's do
it. So let's go ahead and take a quick break, man, and then we'll just jump into Terminator.
Sounds good.
All right, Joes, we're back, so we can go ahead and get into Terminator Dark Fate here. What do you got? Do you have something to say?
I do. I'm so sorry. I'm counting up all the videos we've released. Okay, so I'm sorry for the dead air. The conversation about How to Train Your Dragon made me go in physically and look at all the stills because I seem to remember doing a still.
Yeah.
And maybe I didn't, but the amount of... And so, obviously, that means we did not do the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So, however, there's over 100 videos on our YouTube page, which is amazing to me.
Yeah, it is.
And it got me thinking about, I know people have mentioned to me, look, I miss the spoiler-free versions that you guys would do.
Yeah, I always get comments on that. People really enjoy those. And it's so funny because my coworkers, when I was telling them that I do a podcast, the guys that they hired, the new dudes, and I was showing them there's a spoiler-free thing that we used to do. And I showed it to him, and he was just he looked at it, and he was just like, geez, that is really cool. And that's significantly better than what I'd expect from two guys just working on a podcast. Two friends working on a podcast together. I would expect that from one of the really high-end podcasts, the guys that have teams and crap doing stuff for them. And I'm like, well, I mean, we did this professionally. This is what we...
Right, yeah. I mean, we take that approach.
Yeah. We take that approach to it. That's how we handle it. So I thought it was so funny.
So the thing about them is I could never get the spoiler free. I got into a rhythm with them, but essentially it would take about 4 hours of my time every Sunday.
Yep.
And it was a real push to get it out for that Monday or sometimes even Sunday evening.
But I mean, that's not even an issue anymore. We used to record basically the following Sunday of the release. And so we've had so much space between podcasts now because we've both got so busy because life.
Yeah. And definitely.
Yeah, and so we get it done when we can now, and that's just how it is. And people seem to still be listening, so it's just that's just one of those things.
And that's great. And so
it's great
to people who miss those. If there was a way for me to do them and not miss out on so much family time, I'm just not willing to do that.
That's fair.
And I think I would rather people just go and see the movies and listen to the podcast.
Oh, yeah, which was the original plan. Yeah. That was the original plan.
Go and check out new releases, and then we get to have a discussion about them.
Yeah.
As friends should. This is so weird, though, and then I'm sorry for throwing you off your usual rhythm for coming back, and in fact, that actually threw me off.
Yeah, right?
Because... I'm really baffled here. I could have swore that we did one How to Train Your Dragon. Maybe
No.
I'm thinking of Zootopia.
We definitely did Zootopia. We did Kung Fu Panda 3.
Kung Fu Panda 3. That probably could have been it. We might have discussed it on that podcast.
Well, we might have, but the thing is, Kung Fu Panda 3 was way before How to Train Your Dragon 3. It was like way before it. So I don't even know why we would even bring that up. Like, I don't even know if it was even announced that there was a third one coming at that point in time when Kung Fu Panda 3 came out. So I don't even know. My assumption is it had to be one of those off commentaries that we had when we start just talking about movies in general, when we're talking about trilogies, because this year specifically, we've had a lot of things that have resolution, like they've done this third movie. And so with that said, we might be talking about it in a way of rating as a trilogy. And How to Train Your Dragon, the series, the franchise, is one of the best trilogies in movies. It just is. Like, every single one is at least an A, which is fantastic. Usually you don't get that from trilogies. Usually you have a slump or whatever, and it's just how it is. But this one, How to Train Your Dragon, was definitely just a great franchise. Overall, great movies. All of them are great.
Yeah, I definitely, I agree with you there.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm trying to figure out where it's possible the conversation. I mean, how old is that movie, How to Train Your Dragon? Was that last year?
It came out February. It was February this year.
February this year.
Yeah,
Wow.
the problem was it was while we were on hiatus, so we had that huge break between Infinity War and then we came back for Endgame.
Okay.
And so it came out during that time period when we weren't recording. So I know for a fact that we didn't get it done because I remember that's what we did.
It's possible the conversation we had about it is not recorded, but maybe it was either tacked on to Avengers or X-Men.
That's what I would think.
This year.
Yeah.
Because I do remember that conversation vividly.
Yeah.
And now I'm thinking it's not physically on a podcast, which is a shame. Yeah. So I'll go back in and check those ones out. And yeah, I do think doing a wrap and maybe touching on all of How to Train Your Dragons, that would make sense to me. We could do How to Train Your Dragons 3, but let's just touch on all of them.
Yeah, I think that would be good if we actually just talk about it.
Okay. All right. Yep, I'm good with that. Cool.
All right. So Terminator Dark Fate. We've talked very little about the movie we're actually supposed to be talking about now.
That's okay, right?
Every time we go into these little tangents, I like to think that everyone enjoys the conversation.
Well, I do. They better. They should, because it's two friends talking. Isn't that the best thing? Damn it.
Oh, man. So, the synopsis for this movie is Sarah Connor and a hybrid cyborg must protect a young girl from a newly modified liquid Terminator from the future. This movie was directed by Tim Miller, who did Deadpool, and he's also the creator of Love, Death, and Robots from Netflix, the Netflix TV series. This movie starred Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor, which we haven't seen. When was the last time you've seen Linda Hamilton?
Okay, I definitely saw her as Chuck's mother in the series.
There you go.
Chuck, and it was so awesome that I think it's so appropriate for how that show is, as far as 80s nostalgia. That Scott Bakula was his dad and was Orion, and that after he dies to protect his children, like everything he did was for their mother, who, is this badass spy. And it was just like, oh my God, like, it's so great to see Linda Hamilton back. And it's great to see her in this, too.
Yep, it's great to see her in this, too. So the movies that I remember for her from when I was much younger was Children of the Corn, and then you have Dante's Peak. Also, she shows up in that. So it's just like, yeah, right?
Dante's Peak on Netflix now.
So it's just like, so I thought it was so interesting to bring Linda Hamilton back into this series, and we'll definitely talk about this later. Arnold Schwarzenegger is T-800/Carl. Obviously, everyone knows who Arnold Schwarzenegger is, but Conan the Barbarian, and let's say Kindergarten Cop, and then True Lies. One of my favorite action movies is True Lies.
It's a
I love that movie.
Pretty hilarious thing that happened recently since Arnold is really acting again, and we'll get into his performance in this movie. Yeah. But it was brought up now that he and Sylvester Stallone are friends, and they don't just have this career rivalry.
Yeah.
Arnold brought up that he tricked Sylvester Stallone into doing "Stop or My Mother Will Shoot." And it's one of the if it's such a hilarious story, and I can't remember which late night show that he told it on, but if you Google that, and Sly just Sly responded on Twitter like, yeah, you're right, you got me, but whatever, keep doing your "I'll be back" thing, and I'll enjoy seeing it in the theaters, like, that kind of social media response. But the story that Arnold, as he tells it, how he tricked him into it's great.
Awesome. Mackenzie Davis is Grace, who was in The Martian, and she was also in Blade Runner 2049, but she's kind of like, she hasn't done a lot of things, but she's been around. Natalia Reyes as Danny Ramos, she was in Pickpockets and Birds of Passage. She has done more movies outside of the U.S. than anything else, is what she's known for. Gabriel Luna as Gabriel/Rev 9. He was in the Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and he was in Matador and also Wicked City.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have comments for any of that shit.
Right? That's why I just ran right through them. Right. So there you go.
Okay. Do we need to... it's good. It's good when the actors are just their names.
Yep.
Gabriel is playing Gabriel/Rev 9.
Yeah, right?
Diego is playing Diego Ramos. It's like, let's not complicate this.
This
guy's gonna die right away anyway.
Oh man.
He has to die so the sister has something to care about.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's the reverse of everything, of every other man movie.
It is a plot device that is just tossed in there, and it's how it is. It just is what it is. He's there as a plot device. There's no other reason for him to be there.
You will forget about him after the moment Linda Hamilton shows up.
Yes, exactly. All right, man. So, not going to take a break. Let's go right into. We're running late here, so let's get right into.
Let's do it.
All right, let's get right into quirks of the like. So, the first quirk that I had after watching this movie was I was thinking to myself, I'm like, why in the world aren't more soldiers augmented? In the future.
Yeah, right? What the hell is that about?
I almost wish there's, I get this is one of those pointless, dumb things to, add into a movie, but I almost want something to tell me, there's a reason why they have to make specific candidates, and they have to be, almost dying, I guess, and so they actually can go through this process, and I'm just like, what is going on? Because she's really badass as augmented soldier.
The way that I took it, and this was just my perception, it is not anything they mention specifically in the movie.
Yeah, no.
But my understanding of it is that it probably isn't a very successful program. And that she is one of the few successes, or you're right, they would have an entire army of these things.
Exactly. I wish there was something explaining why there's very few of them, but you don't get that explanation. And so it's just man, I feel like it'd be really valuable to have more soldiers like this running around. But that could entirely be it, where it's, you know, maybe that's why you have to volunteer for it, because it's highly risky.
Yeah,
like, they don't have much success in it. That would make a lot of sense. That's definitely not explained.
That's gotta be it.
Yeah, I would think so. The other problem I had with this movie, and this is just kind of just a quirk, but I think it's like so interesting that in the entire Terminator franchise, essentially all of it, even the ones that get retconned, John Connor is a huge focus on all of them, you know?
Yeah,
so it's either, right? And so it's so bizarre to have, like, to go through Terminator 1, go through Terminator 2, and even if you just go right into this movie, having John Connor get taken out immediately
right.
in the movie, you're just like, damn, like, what is happening? It's just like, and they're just like relaxing, having a time, and he just comes up and just takes John Connor out immediately. Yep. And you're like, well, wait a minute. It's like, it's so simple that it happens to him, and you're just like, I can't even imagine. That is the type of thing that if this movie had come out as a trilogy, so if we got 1, 2, and then this movie, 2 years later, it would make people irate. It's the same concept of the Alien 3 movie.
Yeah.
You know how you work your way through, and then the characters you grew, you're just like, okay, they're just dead, and you're just like, what?
Start off the movie dead. You're absolutely right about that. Because in terms of looking at what's canon now, right?
Yeah.
It's really these 3 movies.
Yeah,
so
that's it.
The only way they get away with it is because so much time has passed and no one cares about Eddie Furlong, which was one of my quirks about it, is that, you know, it was announced fairly early on that he was going to return, and you're like, oh my goodness, is this, like, his career's been dead? He's gonna come back. He's gonna be in shape. He's gonna be John Connor as we've been promised.
Yeah.
But, you know, not even Christian Bale can make us care about John Connor. So, and for him to come back and just be CGI'd as a kid, which I thought they did a great job of.
Oh, that scene, I think in terms of that scene and the visual effects, they did a really good job.
It's hilarious to me that it's definitely him. It's his voice, and he's gone just like that. And that was his triumphant return to the franchise that ruined his life. That would be like Mark Hamill coming back in The Force Awakens, even though Star Wars is a much bigger deal.
Yeah.
But it would be like killing off a beloved character, right away after you haven't seen him for 20 years.
Yeah,
they're just dead, you know.
Yep.
So yeah,
so
you're
crazy.
right. I mean, if this had come out 2 years after T2, when Terminator was easily the most popular it had been, and so you wonder why there wasn't a follow-up sequel.
Yep.
You know, I think everyone would have turned on the franchise.
Oh yeah, I absolutely think so. If this would have happened, I feel like there's no way you would have got any more sequels at all. You know, it's just like, no. They probably just would have stopped there, and then all there is to it. The only other quirk I have here is, I thought it was bizarre. It didn't bother me that much, but I thought it was real bizarre that you have the T-800, like, raising a kid.
Well, okay.
And in terms of, the thing is in terms of, like, having him do it, I think is the weird part. But in terms of the story, I think it's fine, because there's a parallel there that happens. So I think it's important that you have him basically raising the family, like raising a kid, basically after he kills a kid. And then to have him, like, actively try to help her take out the rest of them, I think is important in terms of a character development. It's just bizarre to have him, like, just like raising a family. It's just like so weird to have the Terminator actually
building something instead of destroying it.
Well,
so, but again, that's the parallel that makes it interesting.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not even an original idea for this franchise.
Yeah,
because in the last movie, which we reviewed, he was
Genesis.
Yeah, he was taking care of a child. He was taking care of Sarah Connor.
Yes,
and even when he dies, spoiler alert, at the end of that one, he says, "Protect my Sarah," and that's like his. So I mean, it's good that they did away with those silly movies in between and that's one of my quirks is that it's hilarious to me that they effectively erased 3 sequels from the time.
Oh yeah,
by doing this movie the way that they did, and
yeah, oh yeah.
So I think if you're looking at what is now canon, it's this is the 3rd movie.
Yep, this is the 3rd movie.
Did not happen.
Rise of the Machines did not happen. Salvation did not happen, and Genesis did not happen.
Yep, and that's fun. That's sort of this trending thing with, I think, movies that have a time element and things like X-Men and like Fox's go-to. Is really like, okay, well, so what can we do to just fix it? Let's get it back on the rails.
Yep. All right, those are my quirks, man.
I think for me, and I know this is a big issue for you because you actively avoid trailers.
Yes, I do.
I think they show too much of this movie in the trailers, and the thing is, Carl's big reveal, I think, was spoiled for me because I knew it was coming, and even though there's a lot of action at the very beginning of this movie, which almost makes you kind of forget about Arnold for a second, you see this new improved Terminator. You've got a badass Protector, but they're starting to struggle because you see just how powerful Rev 9 is, and we'll get into that at least in terms of, there's something scary about an enemy that won't die.
Yes.
And he's definitely an enemy that just keeps coming at you, even though you keep destroying him. You know, and he's only got to get it right once. He only has to kill his target once.
Yep.
So, and I feel like they had to show Arnold, and this is an unfortunate commentary for where we're at as a movie-going society, but, they had a bunch of unknown female leads who were not going to carry this movie, and I feel like as soon as they started showing production shots of just the girls, they shot themselves in the foot, because I think the movie overall really feels like a Terminator movie to me. And so I don't think enough...
We will talk about that also later.
So, okay, so that being said, you have to show Arnold in the trailer, because you received all this backlash online for releasing production stills, which you just shouldn't have done, of just the girls only. And that shouldn't be an issue, but I mean, it's an overall theme with a lot of these reboots where you're having a stronger female characters, and then the male audience isn't showing up for it, and so that's a larger discussion.
Yeah, it is.
And it's a shame because there's there is quite a bit of good stuff in here, and it adds a little bit more to the franchise. So let's see. We talked about Eddie Furlong. That's so funny to me still. It's interesting to me because there's potentially a larger sandbox here that is mentioned and then almost dismissed in the next sentence. And that is the idea that the Terminators were just sending back a Terminator every 2 years, regardless of if they killed their target. Because in theory, there's no way for the Terminators to know that they've killed John Connor. once you go back in time, you're stuck there. And so that's a really interesting idea to me that they just sort of scrapped right away, because Sarah Connor has been handling these. She's been getting texts and coordinates. Yes. She's been at war for the past 20 years, and every 2 years a new Terminator arrives.
Yep.
But that was just, that to me is what a cool thing that could lead to other movies or maybe a show or something like that I think they just kind of sweep under the rug. And that would have been, I think that would have been an interesting way to go about doing this movie if some of that could have been incorporated, and it just wasn't. It's mentioned, and it's potentially a way to expand on, you know, basically the same idea that they keep rehashing each time. Yes. You know, each Terminator movie it's essentially always the same idea.
Yeah, it is.
So I thought that was really interesting to me, because they stumbled upon something there, but they didn't have, you know, it wasn't in the movie.
Which is a real interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting statement, because when I was reading about this movie, about the production, and how much James Cameron wanted this movie to be the first in a trilogy. And so when he's working on this movie and they're writing it or whatever, that is where that opening the universe up a little bit could potentially put in sequels. Because he definitely wanted to do sequels to this movie, but the movie needed to make money, obviously, because if it doesn't make money, the studio's not going to put any more money into it, because that's just not how business works. Yeah. So, and unfortunately, I mean, I'm the type of person that I thought this movie overall was actually pretty good. But the thing is, this movie is absolutely turned into a box office bomb, which is, I think, is a shame, because I think it deserves more than what it's received. So it's really unfortunate. But I definitely know that they had plans on actually doing more movies.
What a shame. I mean, if you're going to do that, you have to expand things, and you have to have the right leads going forward. So I don't know. I liked Danny more as the film progressed. Yes. I didn't really connect with her, you know, until like about halfway through the movie.
Yeah. But I mean, she takes a back seat to Linda Hamilton.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, through most of this movie, I think they hand it off well, though. I think, like you're saying, I think you're supposed to like kind of get to know her better, and you kind of connect more with her as the movie goes forward. And so I think that's probably a good thing, because she definitely takes a back seat, and then I think it's handed over towards probably around the third act, where she's actually more involved in what's going on. Yeah.
Let's see. So actually, I was trying to remember Robert Patrick's name, who played the T-1000 in T2. So I'll come back to that. But in looking up, you know, the cast for T2, I discovered, and I didn't know this, but Linda Hamilton has an identical twin sister.
What?
Yeah.
Does she?
She does. And her name is... What is her name? Hang on a minute. What the...
I did not know that she had an identical twin sister, and now I'm curious if there was jokes being played on James Cameron.
No. Okay. Leslie Hamilton Guerin is her name. She's not an actress, but she is in T2, and that's how there's like a handful of scenes in T2 where they have two Sarah Connors. Yes. And they're either foreground and background. And it is not camera trickery. It's not an effect. It's her identical twin sister who's in there also playing Sarah Connor.
Oh, wow.
And that's hilarious to me.
I I feel like I really want James Cameron to have issues with like the twin sister.
like what do you mean?
He was married to Linda Hamilton for years. I mean, it's just like
what issues though?
No. I don't want to know. I'll just leave that.
All right, I don't want. Oh my god. Okay, so anyway, the point, that's sort of this tangent, which is now the shadow over the point that I was going to make, is that essentially Robert Patrick's portrayal as T-1000, I think, is iconic. And it's been imitated often, and they've tried to improve upon it, and they just can't.
Yeah.
You know, just no one quite came in with the same. It was just so different and so distinctive, and that's the best Terminator that they've sent back. Obviously, you know, it's you can't replace Arnold, right?
Yeah,
but I mean, in terms of upping the ante, that's the best one. That's the best performance.
Oh yeah. I think so.
You know, it's, I don't know, it's just it's yeah. The other thing that I was going to get into, and I don't know if this is a like or a quirk, so I'll pose it as a question. How about that?
All right.
Okay. Do you think that there was something going on between Grace and Danny in the future? Because it seemed to me like maybe they had a relationship.
That did not occur to me whatsoever.
Okay. All right.
No. Didn't occur to me whatsoever. Okay. No, because like for me, to me it felt like it was more of like almost like a teacher-student thing. I didn't really catch it as that they had anything more than a respected relationship with each other.
Okay.
I don't think it was any more than that. But I could be wrong. I don't know. But like for me, I didn't catch any of that. Like I didn't get a hint of that whatsoever.
Okay, that's it. That's a lot of quirks.
Yeah, that's a lot of quirks for what I feel like a movie is really not that bad.
Well, I mean, it's more of a commentary on the series as a whole.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so let's get into some likes then.
Okay, so the first thing that I have to say, because I remembered, I was trying to make sure that I remembered this, but I had forgot that this had happened. But there's a like that I have that is very unique to me, and that's when when they try to take the truck, right? And they're looking for keys. And in Terminator 2, it's in the visor. And it's well known in this podcast that I hate the trope of keys in the visor. Nobody keeps keys in their freaking visor. But in movies, there's apparently cars just have keys in the visor. And so I love when they were starting to look for keys, I was going to walk out of the movie theater if the visor came down. I was ready to walk out. I was actually just like, nope. I'm so upset about this. I'm willing to walk away from the whole movie. And then she proceeds to hotwire it. And I'm like, all right.
Yes. It's easy to hotwire a car in a movie, damn it. Stop putting keys in the visor.
Stop putting keys in the visor. How many times have we seen somebody hotwire a car so quickly? That's not how you hotwire a car. It doesn't matter. At least it takes an effort rather than just somebody leaving keys.
It doesn't matter. Just don't have keys be in the visor.
Oh, man. Oh, I had to say that.
All right, good.
The next thing that I had to say.
Did. Because I was like, oh, good. And then I completely forgot about it. I just was like, otherwise that would have been the first thing I brought up.
Oh, yeah. So, the next thing I have to say that I liked about this movie is I thought that it was I thought this movie was very fan servicey, but in like a really good way. I thought all the little nods to the previous two movies that we all enjoy, I thought was really cool. I really enjoyed seeing the basically Grace, when she finally gets up to Danny, and she tells, instead of saying, come with me if you want to live, she says, come with me or you're dead. But that's obviously a nod to how they all come back and try to save someone, right?
Yes.
And so I enjoyed hearing that nod. Seeing the Rev 9 basically repeat the scene where he's running after the car and he's like hanging onto the back of the car, you know?
Yeah.
And like having that kind of stuff show up in this movie was really fan servicey, but I thought it was done in a way where, and it was slightly different enough to where it was like, okay, this is definitely a nod to the original two, and I enjoyed it. I was like, okay, I think this is good fan service, and I really enjoyed that. The overall, just like we're talking about these scenes, the action scenes, I think overall were all great. I really enjoyed the scene with the car chase scene. I thought was fun. And I think this is when we're starting to talk about how it feels like a Terminator movie. Because there's so many scenes where you kind of get shots of the Terminator doing things that he's trying to basically overcome something or take over someone and then chase. And like it's a slow chase through the whole movie. And all the Terminators are like that. And so this one feels like that, and all the action scenes are great. I love the scenes with the scenes on the bridge and the car chase. I thought was great. The scene on the plane was just insane.
Yes,
and it was so much fun to watch. I mean, it was incredible to see all of this going on with the plane and just them like flying around and like trying to get all this stuff done. And like I also really enjoyed having the unique differences in how the T-800 fights versus the Rev 9 trying to take him out, where you have Arnold doing these very brusque like shots, and he would just like be really harsh and more robotic, you know? And it was just like that kind of stuff I thought was really cool. I liked the scene in the prison when they were all there. That was a really fun, kind of terrifying scene, and it was just great, man. I thought it was so good. All the action scenes, I would watch the movie again just to get those in. I thought they were just so much fun, man.
Definitely.
So much fun. And that's actually all I have, man.
I felt like the action scenes that were in there were really quite amazing.
Yes.
It's up a notch. It's definitely turned up a notch, and I think Tim Miller handled them in such a cool way. And there is something really terrifying about an enemy who keeps coming at you. When they're in the large planes, I forget what they're like, C-50s or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, why doesn't he just run his plane into the other one? Like, why is he jumping out of the window? And then he does both. He runs his plane into it and also jumps at it. And I'm just like, geez, that's just crazy. Like, like, that's freaking bananas. But it's awesome.
It's one of those time periods where the writers, when they're writing this story, and you have, like, when you're chasing after somebody, it's one of those things where a larger-than-life villain would chase after somebody in a plane.
Yeah.
But he still wants to stay alive. So he's not going to do that.
Sure.
Like, he's not going to ram the plane. But no, as a robot who's, like, he has no fear. There's nothing there. He's a robot. So it's really efficient to be like, no. I'm going to run the plane into it, and I'm going to jump on it and make sure that they're dead.
Right. And that's going to be the last thing I do.
Yeah, that's going to be the last thing I do.
It's just amazing. It's so crazy. A lot of the action scenes were just, so crazy. And I would argue that, the final scene in the dam, that maybe that I mean, it was good that they were all that I think they were all together again.
Yes. Yeah.
But I thought the fact that she got to the point where, they were in such a tight spot when they're dangling over the edge on a Humvee.
Oh my gosh,
that
scene.
And that Grace's only option is to just cut the damn strap and let them all fall. Like, I mean, it's just like Sarah Connor's reaction to that is like, "Oh, you got to be kidding me!"
You got to.
And I mean, I think everyone in the audience was thinking the same thing too.
Oh yeah, right.
They were in an impossible situation. They were in just an impossible spot.
Yep.
And just and that's another thing for me too, like, because the movie is so damn serious, and then there are these spots, and it's really once Carl gets introduced, that are pretty hilarious, and so so they find these moments to really balance everything out, and that is one of my likes, because I could have listened to Arnold talk about drapes in in someone's daughter's room, like, don't do it, go with polka dots or a pattern. His father came in and he wanted a solid color on his daughter's drapes. I was like, don't do it.
Oh, hilarious.
I thought in terms of like it's so funny that I'm going to say this, but I really felt like Arnold's English in this movie is a lot better. Like, you go back 20 years and it's like, oh, well, he's like understandable.
Yeah.
In this one.
Oh yeah.
So, like, I shouldn't say that as a like.
But I mean,
kind of mean.
He has very few lines. But the lines he says is rough to hear sometimes, unless they're the very distinctive ones.
And so the other thing that I was wondering is, I think they did work on Arnold and on Linda throughout the movie. I think they did work to, in terms of, especially with Carl, to, build his physique again.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt like in this case I was good with it. There were some scenes with Sarah Connor where I was noticing, like, okay, I think that they've gone in here with makeup to smooth out wrinkles on her arms and stuff.
Yeah.
And usually I would be against that kind of thing, but you figure she's been on the run for 20 years.
Yeah.
Maybe she's earned that. And it's one of those things where it's kind of caught in between a quirk and a like, but it makes a lot of sense to me that these characters would be, they would more or less be in really good shape, and that Carl would age, the organic tissue would age, but structurally he shouldn't change.
Yes.
So it's just one of those things where I feel like that was a decision they decided on, and so they definitely spent some money there.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that's it. Like, I liked a lot of little things about this movie that I'm probably not even listing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm forgetting about.
I'm the same way. I think there's a lot. I think there's just a huge amount of little things throughout this entire movie that's really good. And so with that, let's just go ahead and rate this baby. So we've already kind of said that I think this movie's pretty good, and I've already said that, and I also said that I think it's really a shame that it's a box office bomb. It has not done well, and it looks like it's not going to do well either. And I think that is thoroughly disappointing for this movie. I think it is better than all the other sequels. And
sure, yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I think it's better than Rise of the Machines. It's better than Salvation. It's better than Genesis. And I, for one, truly believe that this is the sequel that we all really deserve in this series. And it really is a crying shame that it's not going to make the money that it deserves. But I'm going to say see it, man. I really enjoyed this movie. And I hope it has some sort of revenue through like DVDs or something, man. Like, I hope something happens to help them get some more money out of it, because it deserves more than what it got.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, the thing that they only had, it's unfortunate, they only had one showing, and it was packed. It was packed. So
yeah.
But, you know, it's word of mouth can save a series, and, you know, it's a tricky deal because this is now owned by Disney.
Yes.
So you don't know how is Disney going to handle these franchises that still actively have movies going in production. James Cameron's got 2 for Avatar. You know, they own Aliens, they own Terminator, they own a lot of things that are not family friendly, and now they have this new platform that needs content. So how are they going to juggle that when you know that they are definitely sequel crazy over there? So it's I don't know. It will be interesting to see how they handle some of those Fox properties.
Yes, it will be
going forward. And this one was already in the works.
Yeah, it was already in production.
And you would think that there could be more to figure out. There could be more on the table if they decided to pursue it. But
yeah, it's the problem is when it doesn't make money, it usually doesn't get pursued. and I really feel like I feel like this movie is pretty good, and it's pretty damn good, and I think people should see it, especially if you're a fan of Terminator 1 and 2. If you're a fan of T1 and T2, I think you should finish the series with this. It's I think it's good. Yeah.
Alrighty.
All right. Anything else you got to say about this?
That's it.
All right.
Yeah, we're at an hour, the hour-long podcast.
Yep, this podcast is going to be pretty close to an hour.
That's okay. I like listening to your voice.
I see. All right, so if anybody wants to contact us, you can always contact us on our home on the web at halfpastpodcast.com.
Like us on Facebook.
We're on iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify.
We're on Stitcher, Libsyn, and TuneIn.
And you can always contact us at halfpastcast@gmail.com. That's halfpastcast@gmail.com. Or you can talk to us on YouTube. Apparently I'm on YouTube on the channel, so you can contact us there because I've been definitely communicating with people.
Yeah, and everyone knows how much Graham loves social media, so tweet us at halfpastpodcast.
I'd like to thank everybody for listening and thank everybody for your support. And this has been a fun episode. I've had fun with this one. I was actually concerned about this episode. I was like, man, I don't know how good this was going to be, but I enjoyed this episode. This has been fun. And I don't have no idea which one's going to be next, so I'm just going to leave it open-ended.
I gotcha.
This is the Half Past Podcast. I'm Graham Ricks.
Jonesy.
See you next flick.
Oh, that wasn't a good one. Whatever.
I'm leaving it in.